Hey everyone, David C. Anderson coming at you from the Knife Center. And it's time to show off some of the cool new stuff that hit our shelves this week. Got some of the best stuff here in front of me. Let's check it out. So the first noteworthy thing this week is most definitely the SOG XR Flipper. Now they unveiled this earlier this year at SHOT Show, and we've been waiting for it to come out. You guys have been waiting for it to come out. Well, it's finally here, and it's just as awesome as I remember it from when I saw it at SHOT Show earlier. Now, SOGs have always been pretty economical, but this is definitely a step into a higher echelon of quality than they have achieved before. Price on this is $170, or just under $170 right now, but you're getting an S35 VN blade, a big handle, glass reinforced nylon, really good tactically oriented knife. You got these prominent finger grooves with plenty of jimping all along the spine of the knife, down the back, on the finger grooves, and it really locks into the hand. You know, obviously it's going to give you a little bit of some little hot spots here and there, but you're not going to lose your grip on the knife, and it's going to be great if you're wearing tactical gloves or work gloves. But I love the size of the handle. It's nice and big, nice and beefy, and feels really solid. On the back, you've got what they're calling a persuader tool. It's a little protruding pommel, essentially, of metal, so you can kind of thump on some things, and anything that might need a little convincing, you can persuade them with that thing right there. So the blade itself is S35 VN. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. We've got a flat grind, and the length is almost 4 inches. This is quite a big folder. And most SOGs up to this point have all been imported knives, but in this case, this knife is not assembled in the US, but the blade itself is made in the US. Definitely it's US steel, ground right here, and then shipped over to be assembled in their factory overseas. But the blade shape is really cool. You've got a nice broad clip point here, a little bit of a concave. It's not quite straight, but it's not super clipped out. But I love the shape of it, or I love that the shape of the blade sort of echoes their SOG buoy, the fixed blades that they're known for. You get a little bit of that SOG family DNA with this shape right here. But at the core of this knife, hence the XR in the title of SOG XR, is the XR lock, which is, they can't call it an axis lock. Benchmade still owns the rights to that name, but it is that style of lock. It's a crossbar running across the tang of the knife, but they've done a few things a little bit differently. Obviously, they've added some synthetic tabs here that make it a little easier to actuate. And when I did that, you see how the blade kicked out a little bit? It's something you don't really see on competitors, but as you pull that, the tang of the knife is shaped just so that it kicks the blade out just a little bit, without gravity even. You know, it'll do it if I'm holding it this way too. What that means is, even though this is a big blade, it has some weight to it, when you pull that back, it flicks open effortlessly. I mean, it just is super smooth. We do have ball bearings in the pivot, and you can do that all day long. And part of that is thanks to that little kick there. It's pretty cool. In addition to that, you've got, well, actually what SOG calls a kick, the flipper tab, as well as a thumb hole cut out here. So you can open it a couple different ways if you want. But I'm glad they're finally here. It's a really cool knife, the SOG SOG XR Flipper. Next, we've got a new Matthew Christensen design. It's a collaboration with Alliance Designs, and this is a KnifeCenter exclusive. This is the Bangarang. We've got two variations here. You can see we have a black stonewashed blade as well as a satin blade with some contrasting grind directions. Of course, you have vertical grinds on the ground portion and horizontal grinds on the flats. Be sure to let us know which finish you like better. I always like that contrasting grains, but I really love a black stonewash too. And this one's pretty nice. It's not super black. It's kind of like a graphite gray with some stonewashing. It gives it a pretty cool effect, I think. They are RWL 34 blades, and they're flat ground, and this is not a flipper knife. We got dual thumb studs, bearing-based pivot, but you don't have that flipper. But you don't really miss it. It flicks open super nice. Carbon fiber handles, titanium frame, some nice copper pivot rings on both sides, which is pretty cool. And the liner lock itself doesn't stick out too much. It doesn't look like it's going to be super easy to disengage, but it actually is fairly easy. Despite that little bit, that small cutout there, there's enough of a distance between the two scales that even for me, I've got pretty fat thumbs, it's pretty easy to get in there and disengage the knife, no problem. I also like the pocket clip that they did on here. It's a milled pocket clip, it's not folded, but you still have a little bit of that kick out there at the end, like you see sometimes on a folded clip. A lot of times, let's see, do I have an example here? On a milled pocket clip on this Bestech, which we'll show you shortly, it usually comes down straight and you have a little tab sticking in this way instead of that curve. But this Alliance Designs has that curve to it, and it's just a little bit sexier, a little bit nicer, a little bit cooler. Prices on these were at about $370, no matter which variant you choose, but they're pretty cool and you can only get them from us. Next is another KnifeCenter exclusive. Now you've seen our Pioneer X with red A-LOX handles. We now have this model with black A-LOX handles, again, exclusive to us here at the KnifeCenter. I really like the black. I don't think I like it quite as much as the red. I think the red looks absolutely stunning. The black is cool too. It's more of a kind of a classy tuxedo-ish vibe. But what do you guys like better, the red or the black? I think they're both cool. I think the red wins it out for me personally. But if you don't know what the Pioneer X is, it takes the standard Pioneer tool and adds an extra layer, which gets you a pair of scissors, which is pretty neat. You don't see scissors too much in the A-LOX handled knives, so that's really cool that they're offering that here. And it's a really cool color. And prices on these were at $45, and that should be about the same price that the red version is also. And we've got both of them in stock right now. They're gonna make great Christmas gifts. Holidays are coming up. Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Pretty cool option for not a whole lot of money. So next up, we've got something that at first blush looks kind of traditional, but you quickly see that it's something more, and that's the Enrique Peña X Series Trapper Front Flippers. So being part of the X Series, these aren't full Enrique Peña customs. These are made by Riot in China. The quality they've been getting on all the X Series knives is incredibly good. But with the X Series, we've got a few different variations. I'll go through them here in a second. It's a very classic profile, classic silhouette, I should say, but it's very modern. You almost get sort of a slip joint style of look, but it's a little bit fatter than your typical single layer slip joint because it is a titanium frame lock, which we love. That security is great, but you get that cool clip point blade. We've got M390 steel, contrasting grain similar to that Alliance Designs, and folded up, no flipper tab. It is a front flipper. It's not the easiest front flipper that I've ever used. I find for me, it kind of works best with a slow roll. A couple of us here in the office are able to get it to flick a little bit better, but for me personally, not so much. But you get that classic look with modern security, milled titanium pocket clip. And we're about $275 on these knives, no matter which variation you choose. And speaking of, we've got marbled carbon fiber with the titanium frame and the frame lock. Some might call that a bolster lock. We've also got micarta inlays, both green and natural. In addition to that, the coolest is the jigged titanium, which is, you don't see a whole lot of people doing that, and I think that's a shame because it's a really cool look. It's a really cool way to blend the old school and the new school, and you get that added bit of traction which jigging gives you, and a very distinctive look. But yeah, very cool knife. Peña X Series Trapper Front Flipper. Modern design, really tight tolerances, put together really well. Classic good looks. So the next one's for you Bally flippers out there, not here. You're out there, not here. So this is for the Bally flippers out there. But this is the BRS Barebones Tanto V2. Now, for those of you out there in the know, Blade Runner Systems Bally's are kind of the gold standard of attainable, high-quality balisong flippers. They're really great, and this one right here is a great entry into the brand. We're only at about $225 with this knife, and you get a great tool, whether you're just starting out or you're an expert. As you can see, I'm not an expert. There we go, that's a little better. It's a solid tool that's gonna be able to pull off any tricks that you're brave enough to try, because there's nothing but quality here. So these are stainless steel handles, and they have sort of a tumbled stone washed finish. So they're not gonna be as light as titanium, but to get around that, they've skeletonized them out so that there's not a whole heck of a lot of weight that you're having to deal with as you would if they were solid stainless steel. So the blade itself is 154 cm stainless steel, and that tanto shape that they use on this knife, I think it looks pretty darn striking. You've got those compound grinds, and you've got a really cool trailing point Tanto shape, that up sweep. But I really like the flare out near the tip too. It's not just a complete arc with a straight, with an edge that follows the spine. You get a really cool design there. And speaking of the spine, it is a crowned spine, so you got a nice, comfortable spot there when you're doing tricks. It's not gonna, jab into you. Very comfortable and a very capable flipper at 225 bucks. If you're looking for something that's higher quality, you can certainly spend a lot more money. But if you're looking to spend just the right amount of money to get a quality flipper that's going to let you learn and practice without having to, work around the limitations of your flipping knife, of your Bastogne, the Barebones Tanto V2 is the way to go. So next we've got a couple of new Bestechs. You saw one real quick as I was holding it up next to that Alliance, and that one is the Supersonic by Bestech, which we have in a couple different colors right now, but I really love this black and gold accented version right here. S35VN blade, about 3.5 inches, and this one has a two-tone finish. You've got those horizontal grind lines on the flats, but we've got black stone-washed grinds, which is really cool. Now at first glance this may look hollow ground, but this is actually a flat ground knife. You have that nice swedge. Should be a fairly efficient cutter, especially with that swedge relieving some drag as you're moving through material. But stay up here though, because on the back here, instead of thumb studs, got these really cool levers or platforms, I don't know what you want to call them, with a nice gold color that matches the pivot collars, but makes it real easy to flip out. Because again, this one, like those Alliances, is not a flipper. It's a titanium frame lock, but it's not a flipper. I don't know, did they miss the memo? Thought everything had to be that these days. I digress. Really cool frame on it too, I think. Titanium, black stone washed finish with some kind of bronzy accents or undertones that come out as you move it around in the light. Really helps tie it in with those gold accents too, which is really cool. And check out, there's a lot of sculpting on here. You've got a kind of a ridge going along the side with some cutouts or some milled out sections, scooped out areas towards the edges of the handle. Really cool, really visually interesting, and feels really good too. It's not super chunky. It kind of fits a little better because of that. And it's just really cool. You got that milled titanium pocket clip, and we're at $216 on this knife right here. So the next up is a titanium frame lock flipper. Sorry for my snark earlier, that's okay though. The Bestech Knives Fractal. Crazy blade shape, huh? Really neat, kind of an angular take on a Wharncliffe profile. S35VN steel again, and 3.5 inches thereabouts again. Compound grinds, both of them are flat. So the grind back here, well, kind of reminds me, think about like a Hinderer slicer grind, where it gets thinner towards the tip, so that you've got more strength back here and a little more slicing out near the tip. This does gets a similar effect, but with two distinct different grind heights there. You can see it kicks up just a little bit, and they get the edge just a little bit thinner as well. So you'll have a little bit more efficient cutting out there near the tip. Frame itself is titanium, as you'd expect, and you get some marbled carbon fiber inlays, one of the cool materials in the knife world right now. And you see that on both sides as well. And on the back side, it also acts kind of in tandem with the lock bar insert, which does have an over travel arresting tab on the inside mounted internally. But if that weren't there, those inlays would do the same job. But anyway, this is a really cool guy. This one's also at 216 bucks. It's pretty light in the hand despite being as big as it is. And glancing at it, it's kind of hard to tell why. They have done a little bit of interior milling, but only up here. I guess part of that is probably the carbon fiber inlay. They must have removed enough titanium there for that to make a difference in the weight. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You do have a nice big back spacer, kind of chunky with some triangular cutouts kind of passing through it there. You could use those as a lanyard hole. And if you want a lanyard on this knife, that's what you'll have to do because there's no other lanyard attachment point for this knife. But this is the Bestech Fractal. So next we're going to shift over to Italy. We've got a new Mazarin. It's a bigger flipper from Mazarin. This is called the Reactor. This is another big tactical folder like that Seal XR from before. At another knife at about 4 inches. You can see right there, they've both got really aggressive blade profiles. And the blade steel on this is D2. It's got a stone washed finish. I really like the broad fuller on this knife. It kind of extends out the front, kind of like Andre de Villiers style, although he does a lot of straight fullers like that. This has that nice curve to it. It looks pretty darn cool, I must say. Now you do have a flipper to open this knife, and it is a nice large tab, very easy to grab a hold of. Works very well. But in addition to that, because of that fuller, you can actually use that to thumb open, which is another neat little trick. Actually, I picked those up from Greg Medford. But yeah, you kind of stick your thumb out there near the front, and as you rotate it open, your thumb slides up closer to the base of the blade. Pretty effective once you get the hang of it. Now this is a slimmer carrying knife, especially given its size. It's sort of something you don't see usually this slim. So it's going to be very easy to carry, and it's not going to take up too much room on your kit if you're going to incorporate this into your tactical loadout. Now the frame on the back is titanium. You get a nice frame lock. Has a steel insert on that frame lock that helps ensure good long wearing interface, as well as acting as an over travel arrestor. And a nice deep carry pocket clip. A little bit does stick up. It's not super deep carry, but the bit that does stick up, you can see we've got a nice apex that is formed from part of the back spacer that sticks out. Should be pretty aggressive when you intend it to be, actually. It's rounded over a little bit. It's not like a super sharp point, so it's not so much going to dig into you when you're using it, but if you use it to concentrate all of your force into one small point, I think it's going to be pretty effective. G10 scales on the front. We got 3 different colors. You got the tan, as well as OD green or black. And you've got a deep, well, as I mentioned, you have that deep carry pocket clip. On the other side, you do have a small little plate that they allow you to flip over because the clip is reversible. And that little plate allows you to avoid having kind of some empty holes on the opposite side. But they still leave a little bit open there where you can access the structural screw. But overall, a very capable knife. Slim carrying, not just for tactical, I would say. If you need to carry a big blade or want to carry a big blade, this lets you get 4 inches of solid steel, nice broad shape, a strong shape, but still carry very darn slim in the pocket. The Mazarin Reactor, 180 bucks. So speaking of tactical stuff, we're going to switch over to a couple of karambits now, and the first is the RMJ Tactical Corbin. It's a pretty cool design. It's a pretty comfortable design as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a tactical guy, but the way they've shaped these handles, it feels very secure in my hand. G10 scales, and this one right here in orange and black is a KnifeCenter exclusive color, but we do have other colors as well if you'd like something a little more subdued. And you got 3 tube pass-throughs that are flared out on the end. So if you wanted to attach this to something, you could, and you're gonna have nice, easy edges that aren't gonna abrade cordage to do it with, again, if that's what you want to do. Now the steel on this is Nitro V, as you can see, and we've got a tungsten Cerakote coating, which is going to make it very durable. And it's already a stainless steel, but you're going to have to worry even less about corrosion on there. And they've kept the edge a little bit thick, so you're going to be a little more durable, as opposed to a very thin edge. But that's great on a knife that might be seeing some rough situations. The sheath itself is Kydex. Very easy, very secure. And on the back, you see this sort of star-shaped piece of Kydex, and that's actually what they call a 2-way belt adapter. Because you've got openings all around, you can thread a belt this way or this way, no problem whatsoever. But that's the RMJ Corbin, made in the USA, fantastic warranty, and we're at $190 on these. So now we've got another karambit, this one a little bit smaller, and this is the Bastogne Creations Pika. So I say Bastogne, but that's only one of the entities that was involved with the creation of this knife. The manufacturing was handled by Fox Knives, so this is another Italian-made knife. And it's actually a collaboration between Bastogne and Funker Tactical and martial artist Doug Marcaida of Forged in Fire fame. Great tactical mind, Doug Marcaida, and this is one of the designs he came up with in collaboration with those other guys. This is a very unobtrusive knife. We actually have a cord-wrapped handle here over the N690 steel, and it's got a very aggressive chisel grind. We're almost at 5/32 of an inch thick on this blade, and being all ground away from this one side creates a rather dramatic looking plunge line when you look down at it from this direction. But it's very comfortable to hold. The cord wrap gives you some traction, but all of the other surfaces, apart from the sharp edge itself, and actually the spine as well, but everything behind the blade is all crowned, both inside the ring and outside and all down the back of the knife. So that's very comfortable, very nice little detail, especially right here when you're pinky right behind the edge there, or if you're, you know, committing heresy and holding it like this for some some utility work. It's very comfortable to hold there. A little bit of jimping up there. N690 steel. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. Stone-washed finish. A little bit cheaper than that RMJ. We're at $155. And we get a Kydex sheath again with this knife. No two-way belt adapter like the RMJ, but we do have a modular dots attachment that can be moved around to some of the different holes. And like the Blade Tech locks, you have some spring-loaded tabs here that you have to depress in order to swing that out. So there's very little chance of this coming loose from whatever belt or strap that you've hooked this onto. So now for something less tactical, we have a new fixed blade from Tops, and not strictly new. The Fieldcraft 3.5 has been out, but we've got a new variant on here which comes with a fire starter attached to the sheath. That sheath is a Kydex affair, and we have a metal belt clip. And as you can see, when I pull it out, you've got a bit of a channel, a U shape here at the bottom. Again, that's going to help prevent it from kind of slipping off your belt, because if it does, it's going to run into that before it'll let it slide off. So you have to be very intentional about taking it off. And you can rotate this clip around too if you want to carry it in a slightly different direction. You've also got their survival whistle attached, and a very fat ferrocerium rod. And there's no striker included because on this model, they've actually left the spine at a 90-degree angle. So the edges are crisp enough that you actually use the spine of the knife to strike it. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to, you know, this has to go back into inventory, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Other than that, it's the Fieldcraft 3.5, a fantastic knife, scaled down from the full-size Fieldcraft, or the Brothers of Bushcraft knife, the Bob. So this makes this the little Bobby or something, I don't know. Made in the USA, awesome warranty, a little bit under 130 bucks. I think we're at about 128 on this right now. We've got a 1095 steel blade, about 3 3/4 of an inch of blade, despite 3.5 being in the name. This does measure about 3 3/4, but you're under 4 inches, which is great. You guys have heard me talk about that length. I like it for easy controllability, but still having enough length to get some bigger work done. The sides of the blade are coated. You have that powder coat finish, and Tops is Scandi Vex grind. So it does come down to 0. You've got just kind of a hint of a hard buffed micro bevel at the edge, but it's not a perfectly flat Scandi. You do have a little bit of that apple seed shape to it, but it cuts very well. For anyone out there who's used it, you know what I'm talking about. Handle scales are micarta, and on both sides, you've got a bow drill divot drilled into the micarta itself. And just in case that ferrocerium rod fails you for some reason, it shouldn't, but maybe you lose it by accident. If you do, pop the knife back into the sheath, and now you've got your bearing block for a bow drill set. In addition to that, you've got a really big lanyard there. Not too many knives have a lanyard this big. Chamfered edges, so again, you're not going to abrade the edges of your cord, but you can string pretty much anything through there. Paracord is certainly going to be no problem. You could probably run 4 or 5 strands through there, no trouble whatsoever. While we're talking about survival stuff, check out this little guy. Kind of weird, isn't it? Nice small little unit. This is called the Ready Man Dog Tag Survival Card. And this is not designed to be something you go out and use every day, but this is something that's great to have a little bit of emergency kit on you without taking up any room at all. You know, some people like to wear these as a pendant or around your neck. You've got 2 little holes there. Very easily fit inside your wallet, or it's almost paper thin. You could slide this anywhere. It could fit well into a survival kit, or even like a bag or a wallet, like I said, all kinds of different places. You get a couple of small arrowheads with this, as well as a couple small fish hooks. They've even got a nice little barb on there. And all you have to do is kind of twist these and break them out, and you're ready to use them wherever you need to go. In addition to those fish hooks right there in the middle, they're calling that a fishing lure. String that up above and it would kind of swing around and flash in the light. And the outside edge itself is supposed to function a little bit like a bandsaw. So you get a lot right there that, again, you can fit that just about anywhere. Sell them right now in 1-packs and 2-packs. We're running from about $8 to $12, depending on which one you choose. And last but not least is another design from Lion Steel. We showed you a new slip joint last week. This is a more conventional fixed blade. This is the M4 Bushcrafting fixed blade, or the M4 Bushcrafter. Another cool design. It's very similar in size and shape to the B40 Bushcrafter that they released earlier this year, but the blade is a bit wider in the cord. You get a little bit more material, probably a little bit more strength too as a result. But you got M390 steel, high flat grind, crown spine like Lion Steel loves to do, which makes it very comfortable to choke up on. Now you're not going to be striking a fire steel from this knife like you would be able to with the tops, so you'd have to carry a separate striker with you. But even though you give that up, you gain that awesome, awesome comfort. In addition to that, not just comfort for your thumb, it's going to be easier if you need to baton with this knife too. It's not going to tear up your stick as much because it has some nice smooth edges up there. Those smooth edges actually continue all the way around the tang, all the way back to the finger guard at the front. And that allows them to, even though they are sized the scales to fit just shy of the tang, because it's crowned and it's nice and smooth, it doesn't feel so much like it's sticking up. It's not going to create, at least holding it here, moving it around in a few different grips, I don't really feel any area that has me concerned that it's going to be a hot spot. As far as the scales themselves, we got a few different options. There's a couple different colors of micarta, a couple different wood options, as well as G10. And we got some really nice contouring from the top. It really fits my hand extremely well. As far as pricing goes, we're at about $170 for the micarta. The wood, one of the wood options actually, the walnut is about $172, but the other wood options are actually less expensive than the micarta, which is a bit of a turnaround, it's kind of nice if you like those natural materials. Personally, I'll stick with this micarta. You do have some small ridges there. Again, I'm not worried about hot spots with this knife at all. And that blade size, again, this is another sub 4-inch blade. We're about 3 3/4 on this blade as well. Great steel with that M390, great size, really good. I know it says Bushcrafter in the title. I think this would make a really good survival knife as well, especially a compact survival knife that just about anyone would have no trouble carrying. And you're going to carry it quite easily thanks to this leather sheath that it comes with, which is really nice. It's actually formed around the top of the knife here. It's not just a pouch style. Got the retention strap, nice thick welted seam, and an integrated belt loop that's actually part of the material on the back. It's not just stitched on, it's just stitched off there at the end. But a really cool package with this Lion Steel M4. Check it out. So that's all the time I've got to show you new stuff today. If you want to see any of this stuff, you want to get your hands on any, you can check the links in the description to head over to KnifeCenter.com. If you want to see more, make sure to sign up for our newsletters while you're there, because there's even more stuff that sold out quick enough, or there's more custom stuff. We send out newsletters on customs every week. Not all of those things always make it to this table in front of me, so if you want to see everything that comes in, make sure you sign up for those newsletters. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.
And bacon. Using that.
I'm not a character, I'm a real boy.
Debatable. Can't use that.
By God.
That time I did say bacon.
By God.